Spooky Tuesday.
How do we kill it, Ash? There's gotta be a way of killing it. How? How do we do it?
You can't. That's bullshit. You still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? Perfect organism.
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And this week, for our dun 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 season finale, even though we're only going to be gone for 1 week, it's a finale, okay, guys?
It's a finale
grand.
for sure.
It's a grand finale. Okay. This is our last regular episode for the month of September. It's not even our last episode for the month of September, but it's the last normal episode for the month of September. It's big. It's big. It's a finale. Can you feel the grandiosity? Is that a word?
Grandio? Yeah. And so for our Grandio movie, we are covering, honestly, I think it is the movie of all specific movies because it is named Alien. So it's the Alien movie, you know, like when you think of
it is genre defining, okay? It literally is genre defining. So it sets the precedent. I love
it's
that.
also like rated by a whole bunch of places as one of the top 100 movies you need to see before you die, and one of the top 3 scariest movies of all time, and all kinds of stuff like that. So it is legendary for sure. It is worthy of the Grandio of being the season finale.
I like how we're going with Grandio.
Grandio.
Sometimes you gotta lean into it. It's fine.
Beautiful.
And if you haven't seen this Grandio movie that is in all of the top ranking lists, Alien is about after a space merchant
I just
vessel.
love when you do the grammar that it doesn't make sense because you set up a sentence and then you just read a pre-existing sentence.
Listen, that's how my brain works, okay?
Sure. I'm along for the ride and I'm enjoying it.
After a space merchant vessel receives an unknown transmission as a distress call, one of the crew is attacked by a mysterious life form, and they soon realize that its life cycle has nearly begun. Which is how you could describe this movie.
Totally.
But
that has enough words in it where you don't really know what it said. Like I know what it said, but I couldn't listen. No, it doesn't hit the same way as the tagline, which is "In space, no one can hear you scream," which like,
honestly, iconic.
Awesome. That's so awesome. Like I would get that tattooed. That sounds amazing.
Get a tramp stamp of "In space, nobody can hear you." You and James, your rocket scientist roommate, should also get matching tramp stamps.
Wow. I'm going to talk to him about it directly after this recording.
I think you have to.
I'm just so stoked that we're doing this movie because I fucking love aliens. I love aliens. You can see me right now. I'm wearing alien earrings. I have alien eyeliner on. I was trying to find my alien shirt, but it's from Brandy Melville. I probably threw it away. So it wasn't there. But like I went through a very intense X-Files phase, like right at the start of when Sydney and I became friends. So she saw it all.
She did.
And so I bought like so many alien related accoutrement. I have an alien purse. I have a Saturn purse. I have these earrings that are aliens. Yeah, you did. I have space earrings.
Look at you too.
Oh my gosh, she knew what was up right now. So because it still continues. I'm wearing Mulder and Scully bracelets. So like I'm just so excited that we're doing this movie because I don't think I've seen every single alien movie, but I think I've seen every single alien movie except for the third one. Minus Alien versus Predator. Let's be clear. absolutely have not seen those. Certainly not. I have seen part of one, and it was traumatizing. Have you guys seen any of the others in this series, or are you just seen this one?
So I have only seen Prometheus, which I didn't realize
geez.
when I saw it was an alien movie, but my dad, when it came out, was like, you have to go see this movie with me. And at the time I hadn't, like, this was the first time that I, like, sitting back at it, like, has watched Alien from like start to finish. Like, I've seen bits and pieces of it, like I knew everything that happened in it, but I'd never like sat down and watched the full movie. Only I think because when I tried to watch it when I was younger, I got really bored of it, because like the first half like is a little boring. Like, rewatching it, the pacing is right. Like, it was right. It built suspense. But like when you're like 16 or 17, you're just like,
Where's the murder?
Where's the aliens? I want to see aliens. That alien, the xenomorph that they call it, that bitch didn't show up until like an hour into the movie. That's
Straight up
halfway
an hour in.
through.
Yeah, that one, which is only called the xenomorph or whatever in some of the sequels, it's literally not called anything but like it, or like maybe like he, by, I think that's even just by cast, not by characters. But that and the chest hugger, quote unquote, and the face hugger
Face
and then
hugger,
the chest burster, whatever, they get like 4 total minutes of screen time. Like, they really are barely in this movie in a way that you can visibly see with your eyes, which, as we've discussed on other episodes, sometimes works best. And they were like very intentional about the way that they shot. Sorry, I read the IMDb trivia page. It's truly so fucking long for this movie.
It's
and I
literally
read all of
400
it.
entries, 376.
And I read all of it. Anyway, so I know so many facts now, or made up lies, who can say? But they were so intentional about the way that they shot it, because as we know, it's a guy in a suit, and he is a 6 foot tall guy, but he's a guy. And they didn't want the alien to look too humanoid, or too recognizably as a guy in a suit. And so they never filmed him face on as the alien. They always filmed him like pretty much in profile, so that you could not see that he's a man. And also they use like a skull as like the base of the head, and they didn't want that to look too humanoid either, even though it was like not his face that was visible. But so they really were intentional about like the lighting and the angles when they were shooting him.
Well, the real reason though that they did that is because they wanted to show off his long shiny head.
Sure.
Because it's beautiful. Yes. And it's very long. Probably too long. I feel like that would be cumbersome to have a head that is that long, but I did like the dolphin vibes that I kind of got from it. I feel like the xenomorph would feel like a dolphin would feel. What do you guys think?
Well, technically he would feel, the alien was like covered in KY jelly, basically, and like had condoms like on his face. So I think he would feel really slippery and rubbery.
Actually, blah blah blah, the whole movie happens, but can we talk about the weird sexual nature of this film? I don't know how much you guys know, because a lot of it was in the IMDb trivia, because it didn't make it into the actual movie, and thank fucking God. But like, I almost just called you Stephanie. I forgot your name for a second. I don't know what's happening.
Who the fuck is Stephanie?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Like, which one did you almost call Stephanie?
Are you cheating on us with another pod?
Is it me?
You're
Stephanie.
Not a Stephanie. I know, that's why my brain didn't make it out of my mouth. I don't know what happened there. You can delete that out. Nobody needs to know that happened to me.
Everyone needs to know.
No, I don't think they do. I don't think they need to know. Anyway. Like Sydney just said, they used KY jelly to be like the goo and the slime in this movie, and like part of the monster's jaw was made out of shredded condoms, so that it would be like nice and stretchy or whatever. But also the alien was maybe gonna fuck somebody in this movie before they came up with like the face hugger concept, and like in the final scene, the alien was going to be sexual again with our. I mean, I'm not going to be like spoilers. Let me save it till later. Everybody knows who Ripley is.
It's been
Everyone who's
40
even
years.
heard of this movie, yeah, that's who cares. Ripley makes it to the end. She's the final girl in a way that they didn't want her to be, because they didn't want to do the final girl trope, but that's how it worked out, and they can suck it because she's great. But the reason that she gets in her undies at the end was supposed to be like, even she's gonna be maybe fully naked, and the alien was maybe like turned on by her, and it was gonna be like a whole thing. Yeah, it's like the worst thing you've ever
Hate
heard.
that.
Like,
I'm so glad they didn't do that.
By that as a concept?
Okay,
Hate
because
that.
I read some of this, and I read other articles that talked about the quote unquote trigger warning rapey nature of this alien in general. And so I'm glad that they went with like more of like the vibes of that, you know, where like it's very clear that's what they were trying to get across, instead of like literal, you know, that like that this movie would not be nearly as beloved and like studied in film classes if they had taken it just completely literally like that. But yeah, I mean, the whole like shape of the alien and his little mouth, that his secondary tiny mouth that shoots out, very phallic, very upsetting. Don't like it.
But literally, like, so the face hugger looks like a vagina.
Yeah.
Mixed with
the
crab.
eggs almost looked like a vagina, and then they were like, we gotta
Yes.
make it look less like a vagina, so they did.
And
That
then
looks a lot like a vagina.
when the little baby alien is born, that's just like a
Totally.
straight up dick.
Did you guys know that actually Georgia O'Keeffe was the art director for this film?
Stop. It's all very phobic. But yeah, I mean, it was, you know, exciting to see on film like a metaphorical like cis heterosexual man. Well, I don't know if he's heterosexual, but he's cis man give birth, you know, in his own little special way. That was fun, at least.
Yes, here's the thing about that scene. Like originally, it was maybe going to be a different character who got impregnated, essentially.
Wasn't
with
supposed to be a woman?
Yeah, and then they were, because it was like, when you're saying it had rapey vibes, it 100% did.
Yeah.
And they were like, how do we get the aliens on the ship? Oh, we came up with this concept of like impregnating it on someone who was carried onto the ship, essentially. And then they had the idea of doing the face hugger instead. But even though they had changed it from literally having a female space explorer being sexually assaulted and impregnated, a little combo for you. Instead of having a woman be attacked, they were like, let's make it a man so that it is less horrifying in that same way, but also horrifying in a different way, because men don't expect to have their bodies violated. And so they get to be scared for once.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. Like the thing about this movie that's so interesting to me is a lot of the lore and a lot of the things that make sense about this movie are not part of the final movie. And also a lot of the things that are really great about the movie are things that they didn't necessarily intend to include or to highlight when they were making it. And so there are all of these like
Just
weird
like
things where, yeah, like with Ripley at the end when she's in her underwear, and they're trying to spin it as like she's just vulnerable now. It's not actually sexual anymore, but like the intention was for it to be sexual. And like plenty of people have seen this movie and think that Lambert's death, the other woman, is sexual in nature and can be read that way, and that there's like enough left off scene for you to project that into there and believe that that's what happened. And I personally reject.
Yeah, no, I don't need that for the movie, you know.
But actually, I think we'll get to this later more in depth. But just because you mentioned that Kane is like a cis man, I do think it's interesting that some of the characters maybe aren't. And we're gonna loop around to that. But there was a lot of gay shit in the IMDb trivia if you haven't
Woohoo!
perused it. And I'm so excited to share all of it with you later. But we'll save that for the segmentos. But yeah, I think, Ripley was not written as a female character. Like all of the characters were written unisex, where they could be gender blind casting, except they specifically thought of Ripley as a man, which is so interesting that like they're like, it is gender blind except for the protagonist. But it ended up being a woman anyway. But it's so much of what they didn't initially intend, what they didn't want to happen, is what's on screen and wonderful here. And so I do think it is like kind of great, the collaborative nature of filmmaking, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But God, if you really dig into it, there's a lot of strange shit about this film.
Oh yeah.
Lots of strange shit.
I mean, that said, I totally agree. A lot of the stuff that you read into it makes it more meaningful, but like just the craft of the way that the movie was made was very, very intentional. Like as far as like the set, they put the cast in situations to get more of like an organic, like less acted reaction from them. For example, the set, Ridley Scott was very, very particular about the set and built it out where you could only enter one way, exit one way. So you had that like claustrophobia feeling, kind of like a spooky, scary maze.
Yeah, and actually something about the claustrophobia, because you use that word specifically, is so interesting, is actually per IMDb trivia, this could be a lie, but per IMDb trivia, Ridley Scott had the crew like squeeze the walls closer together each day of filming, essentially. So the set literally got more claustrophobic for the actors as they were like going through the movie. And so you're right, it was complete. Some of this is like very much a living process as they made the film. And then other things from the beginning, he was like, do you know what? I am going to fuck with everybody so hard this whole time.
Seriously. Yeah. I mean, there's also, I just like the way that they shot the movie too, because I think it was really like brilliant. Like there's all of these articles that talk about how like even though this movie came out in 79, like it still holds up today because of the way that they did the effects. I mean, tiny screens notwithstanding, okay, the tiny little chunky ass computer screens they have everywhere, those, you're like, that's from 1979. But
That's
I mean,
the only thing I think that outdates everything.
The only thing that really dates it. I was like, thousands of years in the future, we still have 2-inch screens, and that's it.
Maybe what if we just like ruin everything and like we destroy ourselves, and this is all we can have in the future now?
Or
maybe would you be shocked if we were headed for another Dark Ages? You know what I mean? Because I would not be shocked.
I would not be shocked at all. Also, maybe one day in the future, they'll realize that the blue light emitted from our screens is so fucking damaging to us. We gotta go back to the little cute ones that got the static on the front and have the little booty on the back. That sounds better.
Or it could be that on Earth, because apparently this exists according to Ridley Scott, if you believe him, but he's not 100% in charge. But this exists in the same universe as Blade Runner. And so basically every movie that he made, he was like same universe. But who knows? Maybe this is just like the technology that they can put on this spacecraft, you know what I mean? Like maybe in another context they have giant blue light emitting holographic screens or whatever we imagine the future to look like now. But maybe this is, I mean, clearly this is not a super ethical company, you know what I mean?
No.
Maybe they're just cutting corners and they're like, you guys are fine with a tiny screen, you don't need the highest latest technology.
Exactly. And I liked that. I also another thing that I thought was really fucking weird is like the control area kind of looks like where like the computer is flying the ship, not the sparkle room. I'll get to that. It was the area where like you see at the very beginning there's 2 screens, and then there's like those two helmets. So it looks like there's like two dudes sitting there flying the ship, but they're just helmets there. I don't understand the purpose of that, but it was spooky. I was like, who are those guys? And they're no one. It's no one. There's no one there.
I actually just watched the beginning before we started recording, and they say like emergency helmet on them. And based on the fact that there was going to be a part of the movie where the aliens like acid spit corrodes or blood or whatever corrodes a hole in the ship, and there's like a whole depressurized emergency or whatever where they have to like plug the hole, and they have to wear their spacesuits inside for a while because the atmosphere inside the ship has been affected. I think it's like that kind of thing that maybe would have been relevant for that specific scene that got cut.
Okay. So
but-
like, oh, this is where the emergency helmets are. Foreshadowing for later. And then they were like, Jake,
And then
this movie's
Yeah.
already pretty long.
the original movie was supposed to be like 3 hours and 12 minutes or something like that. I wrote it down,
Honestly,
but I don't recall.
I know you guys thought that it was a little slow in the beginning and boring at like some parts might have been boring at times, but like I would have sat there for the 3 hours of the ambiance. You know, I love a slow burn. The Midsummer, that kind of shit. The Witch, where it's just world building for like a whole hour and then something happens. Love it. But this one, like the other reason that it works so well is because they don't show you like that much. Yeah, they show you the sparkly room, which I fucking love the sparkly room. Like the computer should always be in the computer, the main computer. Mother. Okay. Also,
No.
are you talking about that now? Why is the computer named Mother? Why do we have to do this? Why we got to throw the mommy issues in here? Dallas, what's going on, honey? Do you want to talk? Actually, I don't want to talk to you about it.
Here's the thing. Apparently, at some point in the film, I did not see it, but apparently at some point in the film, you can see that the computer system itself is called like MUTHR or something like that. So it's something that just like if you pronounce it phonetically sounds like mother.
I figured it was something like that, like Karen and iRobot or whatever. Isn't that an acronym?
Right. And I thought, first of all, I didn't get it the whole time. And then at some point, probably like 20 minutes from the end of the film, I was like, oh, are they communicating with a mothership somewhere else? And they just can only send like limited information and transmissions. That's not the case.
Just robots.
It's very I couldn't help but think the entire time about Mike Pence calling his wife mother.
That was an involuntary bomb.
Oh, we
The
both had
only
the
thing I
same
thought about.
reaction.
Every time they said mother, it's just like, this is so unfortunate.
I'm very deeply upset. I do like Mother's house though. Like that's the only good thing about Mother. Mother's a bitch. She won't tell you anything that you want to know. She's working against you the entire time, but damn, her little sparkly dome is beautiful. I would hang out in that sparkly dome all the time. That's the kind of vibe I'm trying to get for my home. A whole sparkly room. I should turn the airplane bathroom into that kind of energy. I have a bathroom in my house that is the size of an airplane restroom. It's called a half bath.
Small.
It's lovely. The walls are all red. It's very disturbing, but it would be
like
way
a quarter
better.
bathroom.
Oh yeah, it's a quarter. 1.25 bath. But yeah, I mean the world building that Ridley did without giving too much made it timeless. All the like how dark everything was. I liked how the ship like was so wet on the inside. Like there's a whole wet room with spooky chains. The BDSM wet room, if that's what it was. I know it's an air ventilation system or whatever to like keep it cool or some sort of cooling thing. But at
Well,
first I didn't know that. And I was like, it's the wet room. Of course, every spaceship has one.
I'm not even sure that it is a wet room because there was another piece of IMDb trivia. Sorry, I am going to do this the whole episode.
Oh no,
but there was another
I
piece of
didn't read
IMDb
it because I
trivia.
knew you would. Like that's I was like, Chelsea's got this, you know?
Yes. Other people involved with the making of this film were like, hey, why are there chains hanging and where's the water coming from in this scene? And Ridley Scott was just like, don't worry about it.
Hush your pretty little mouth.
Yeah,
Like,
he said it's
it's
for the
just a wet
aesthetic and
dream.
everyone else can choke. And honestly, you know what? Sometimes I'm about that.
I
Sometimes it is about the aesthetic and everyone else can choke.
what is that movie? Is it Flashdance where there's like the chain and they pull the chain and the water,
water
falls and
drops.
they're on this, like all of that's what that room is. All of those chains, you pull them, and a dramatic bucket of water
For
goes
a
down on you.
Flashdance moment.
I like that. A little camp in there. It's wonderful. But yeah, I love that. And also, okay, let's talk about the stupidity of this movie a little bit. Just the characters, plot, not design or whatever. This movie makes me so mad because before like the twist or whatever, I was just like, every person in this movie is the stupidest person in the entire world except for our beautiful babe. Like literally everyone is so dumb except maybe Lambert. She's not that dumb. She's fine. And also, what's his name? Parker. He's
Parker.
great too. But everybody else, everyone who goes out of the ship onto the alien planet, they're fucking
Well, that
stupid.
was Dallas, Lambert, and Kane.
Yes.
Yeah, Lambert was one of them. And I do feel like I don't know that she's a contender for dumb bitch for segments later, just because there's a lot of dumb bitchery in this movie. But she was like very insistent that they be let back inside once Kane got alienified, and she
Yeah.
was like hysterically crying at many a point in this movie, which on some level, you know, I'm like,
Whisker.
yeah, I
Sure.
would be hysterically crying too.
Yeah, of
you know what I
course.
mean? I think it's a perfectly valid reaction, but also it did a little bit bump me out that was what she was doing for so much of the film in the second
I
half.
know. Yeah,
Well,
that sucks. She was just
I
like,
think,
they made her hysterical, and I was just like, okay,
well,
we
I think
didn't
they
need
made
that.
her to be like how a regular person would react to all this, like very like less I'm a woman
Mm.
who's hysterical and more like what the fuck is going on, like we're all doomed, like everything. And so where you get I get very confused because it's Ridley Scott and then the main
Yes,
character is
same.
Ripley, and I keep getting them like fucked up in my brain because
Yeah,
as
yeah,
we
yeah.
have learned today, I don't know what words are. I don't know how
Sure.
to say shit.
That's why I just referred to Sigourney Weaver's character as our girl, because I was like, fuck, is it Ridley or Ripley? I don't know. I'm just gonna say our girl.
Our girl. But so use context clues of who we are actually talking about.
Our girl
We're gonna
will
do our
always
best.
be Sigourney
You-
Weaver. Lambert, we love
Yeah.
her, but she's not our girl. I'm sorry.
Not our girl. Not our girl.
Sure.
But
But we'll just do our best, and you give us the best of intentions. You know what I mean?
Just say it really fast, and no one will know if you're saying Ridley or Ripley.
Right.
Gorgeous, so enunciated.
But so our girl, she is very like, we need to follow by the book. We need to do this. Like she's very calm, very like honestly way too calm in this situation. And then you have Lambert, who is like just like a regular average person who honestly might be probably the smartest one on like in her thinking, because like when they went and they were exploring the alien thing, she was like, don't go look at that. What are you doing? Like, don't go over there. And she was right. They should have listened to
Yeah.
her.
Honestly, okay, I will say that like because this movie like doesn't go too much like all the way into the lore, it's just like vibes, you know. It's like spooky alien planet. Giant alien in a spaceship who is dead. Like bunch of eggs. No explanation for anything. Like they do, like, of course, there's been 75,000 sequels to this film because they left everything open-ended in this movie. But as someone who's seen Prometheus, and I saw what's the one after Prometheus? Alien something. The most
No clue.
recent one. I've seen both of those. And obviously this one is the best one. But it was really cool to watch the new one again and like remember why Prometheus even happened, because Prometheus is the prequel. Sydney saw it.
Yeah.
Yes, I do not remember a single thing about it.
You don't remember the white alien dude? He
Nope.
like dissolves, kind of. It's in the
I j-
trailer. It's in the that part's in the trailer.
No, I
Monica
just
would never spoil something for
I would
anyone.
never.
Just a
Monica would
reminder.
never.
If I do, I'll cry. Okay. But yeah, it's just the whole the whole setup of this movie is super depressing too, because it's like our beautiful group of people have been having their nice little slumber, and then it gets interrupted and they think they're home. That's the saddest part. You know what's gonna happen. They think they're going home, and you're like, no, honey, it's just beginning, and you'll never go home. You'll never go home.
Right? Like they're on a 20-month journey, which is just like, and I get like one of the reasons why a lot of people like really like this cast is that they're just kind of like regular, degular, blue collared workers. Like at that point, a lot of, when you think of like space people, they're like highly intelligent astronauts and sent on a mission. And these are
They've
just
been
like,
trading their whole lives to be astronauts, and that's their whole vibe. It's very
right.
James of
But
them.
like these people are literally just like space truckers. And
So true.
Yeah, straight
like,
up,
they're
straight up.
just, right? They're like
They're way
space
chiller.
Yeah. And so for them, know what I mean? Like they're not designed, like they're not trained to go out on a mission and like hunt for extraterrestrial life forms. Like
Yeah.
they're like, and that's, I love that about that cast, like seeing just, I thought that was so funny. It's like, and one thing that I did read was they pitched this movie to be like Jaws in space. So they were like, what if it was Space Jaws with space truckers? Like, what, instead of boaters, it's truckers? Like, how about that? A concept.
Millions of dollars. Millions of
Yeah,
dollars. Throw
yeah,
it at
they
it.
They said it's like Jaws in space. They said their main three influences were Star Wars: A New Hope, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And so they also said it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre in space.
Isn't
And
there
then
a
also
Texas
IMDb
Chainsaw
trivia.
Massacre in space already? Isn't there?
There
I mean,
is
not
Jason
at that
X.
time.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
Jason X. Different.
Which I talk about constantly, and I still haven't seen. And Sydney fucking saw it, and I'm so jealous.
It's
it
on
got a
HBO
shout-out.
Max. Go watch it. No excuses.
I know.
Wow,
I'm sorry.
tonight, your plan. But it did. Jason X literally got a shout out in the IMDb trivia for this movie. So I just want you to know that. But what you were saying about them all being like regular people, just like space truckers, is so funny to me because I did not get it the first time around. I think I missed a lot of the premise because I was really struggling in the sense that I was like, I know this is a futuristic movie made in the 70s, and I don't have the context of like what technology was available in the 70s and like what they're basing their futurism on. And so like, what am I looking at as a normal thing, and what am I looking at as something that's supposed to be cool? And I just was getting lost in the details that were not important. And so when I read IMDb trivia, it filled a lot of the holes. But they're literally just like a tow truck essentially for space.
It's a space tow
Um,
truck. We're there.
Yeah.
At whatever this was set, we're there. We're at space tow
Right.
truck.
And so it makes sense on some level why all of the characters act the way that they do. Like Parker and Brett are mechanics for the space towing truck, and
Yeah.
like
They just want to hang out in the wet
is-
room.
Right, Lambert is the navigator. You know what I mean? Like she's the one reading the maps and doing directions. She's not necessarily prepared to go deal with space aliens.
No.
And it's not that Ripley is an astronaut by any means, but she's also the third in command. So she does have some like managerial experience, I guess, if you will.
And just basic
so-
self-preservation,
Sure.
like motivations.
Right. She has basic self-preservation motivations, and also she is like aware of all the rules and is a stickler for them, essentially. As opposed to Ash, who is like got his own interest as a science guy and also for other reasons later on.
I would just like to point out, like, one, I love that they talk about having to quarantine. And I'm like, honestly,
Oh my
big
God.
move. And how mad was I when I was like, why aren't you listening to the quarantine rules, people? Oh,
Yes.
just watching
my
it in the middle
God.
of like a 2-year pandemic at this point. Livid, so
When
mad.
they-
Like,
all of the parts, and I don't know if we're I'm jumping the gun here, but all of the parts, once they're back on the ship and they're trying to figure out how to get this fucking face hugger off of Kane's face, like they're just like all like Ash, who is it? Ash and Dallas, right? They're just all up around Kane and they don't have masks on or anything. I was like,
what are you doing?
Their
there's-
PPE was frankly ludicrous.
there is an alien there's an alien in your face right now. They weren't wearing a mask when they were cutting it open also. Like
Yeah.
they were what?
What could have happened when the face sucker's acid blood got onto them?
Blurted on their face. No more face. It's over. Idiots.
Yeah. Apparently in the beginning of the pandemic, a bajillion years ago now, at least emotionally, people were making a lot of jokes about how people should have listened to Ripley's quarantine rules from this movie. And there has also been a lot of fan discussion and perhaps also critical discussion. I don't know. But there's been a lot of discussion about if they have listened to Ripley, would it have been okay? Like, would this whole thing have been avoided? And what someone kind of posited on IMDb is if they had listened to Ripley and left, like not let them onto the ship at all, maybe if they had left Kane in medical quarantine instead of letting him back into the population, probably not, because the alien would have burst out from inside of him in medical isolation and probably gotten its way into the rest of the ship. But
Yeah.
if they had put him in like cryostasis, their little freezer sleepy pods that they have in the movie, that might have actually done something and gotten them home. Sure, they would have brought the alien home with them, you know what I mean? And that
Which
would
was
be an
the
issue for
third
another
directive
time.
after all.
A whole other different alien movie.
But
But
also,
they would have survived the trip, so
and then it would have been somebody else's problem and not theirs.
that the corporation would have to deal with it at that point. Like, it's already over for Kane.
Which is what
Sorry to
they
Kane,
wanted.
but that's what he should not have stuck his face in front of an alien egg after being like, it looks like an alien egg. You know what I mean? Like, sir, what did you think was gonna happen?
And now its pussy lips are undulating. Let me stick my face right into it. Kane.
I mean, he had
Come
good
on.
intentions, I guess. Just going.
Desire overwhelms
right.
him. The
Here's-
fake
look.
pussy.
You learn in 10th grade chemistry class not to sniff a chemical. You know what I mean? You're supposed to waft it to you so that you can be
Waft
like,
it.
what's the deal?
Waft
You
to
learn
the
wafting
space
in
pussy.
10th grade chemistry class. This guy stuck his face right in top of an alien egg, and then he could see it moving, and he did not look away. You know what I mean? He
Also-
kept his face right there. So that is 100% on him.
Also, it went like through his mask. Like it gooed through the glass onto his fucking face, right? So now his face is exposed to like the air and he
Right.
can't like breathe. Well, okay, I guess they said that it was like giving him oxygen. How smart is this goddamn face hugger that it's like, examine organism. Organism needs oxygen. I will produce
Monica.
oxygen. Like, oh, okay.
It's the perfect organism.
It is
Weren't
the
you
perfect
listening?
organism. I don't know. It feels like it's a lot of steps to produce
Sure.
big bongo at the end. That's what I'm calling the xenomorph now, I guess. Like big boy needs to go through like several different gestation periods. Like an egg has to birth a face hugger, then the face hugger has to impregnate a person through their mouth, and then it has
Sure.
to gestate in their little tum tum, and then it has to pop out of that person
like a dick.
like a dick, I guess. And anyway, and then it has to grow into big bongo, like I just said. The main
In like 15 minutes. It's
yeah,
7
okay,
feet
it
tall.
does does grow really fast. I'll say that. I'll give it that. It goes from like 0 to 7 feet tall in 15 minutes flat. So good for them.
Okay. Something that is interesting, again, IMDb trivia. They suggested that at the end of the movie, Big Boy is not being
Big Bongo.
sneaky. Big Bongo is not being sneaky, getting onto the shuttle and outsmarting Ripley, but it's looking potentially for a quiet place to die, somebody said, because it's like nearing the end of its lifespan, like a fly,
fast.
you know what I mean? It only lives for a day, and it just like lays new eggs so that those new eggs can become more flies, I guess, is the argument for what is happening there.
I thought it was just gonna take a nice little nap. It was tired after all the murder.
I
It was
think
like,
it
you know
went
what?
there.
Like I'm exhausted.
Also,
I was
done
just
enough.
born today. I don't have the stamina.
Also, he's just a little baby, even though he's very tall. And
Right?
there's this loud blaring sound being like 19, 18, 17, 16 as the ship's about to explode. And he's like, it's so loud. I'm going to go to this nice, quiet little pod and take a napsy.
But what if this this 7-foot baby alien,
Previously
little
tiny,
baby.
recently tiny,
recently
Big
tiny,
Bongo, mhm,
is just scared, and it's in a new environment. It doesn't know where it is. It's missing
Sure.
from all its other egg siblings. Like, it's the only one.
Alone.
Yeah, it's alone. And so it is just reacting out of fear.
yeah.
You know what? I'm developing a theory. Nobody prove me wrong if anything is different in any of the sequels, which I'm sure that it is. But I'm developing a theory based on the things that you two just said, which is also it has no eyes, maybe. It is like the sharks in 47 meters down, uncaged, blind but afraid of sound. And so if things are loud enough, it will go away. You know what I mean? And 47 meters down, uncaged, they use their little emergency alerts to stave the sharks off. In this movie, that loud emergency countdown, it went into the shuttle where there is no countdown because the shuttle was not about to self-destruct. The shuttle was going to leave. So it was quiet in there. I think this is something.
I love that.
I just Googled can xenomorphs see, and they say it is rather dark where they live, so maybe not, but also, I don't know. Can a xenomorph see? Smell? Oh, it's got to be able to smell, right? People are really, they go real deep with this movie, as they should, because there's a lot to experience. But yeah, I like this theory that it's just a big scaredy boy, and it opens its big mouth to I like to think maybe actually only the little mouth can see. So it opens its big mouth. Opens its big mouth, and then it's like, what's going on? And it pokes its little other head out, and then it's like, oh, what the fuck is that? That doesn't look like mom. And then it eats you.
So, IMDb trivia. Apparently, in all of the other sequels, which I am taking into account for the next 5 seconds, but didn't take into account 5 seconds ago. In all of the following movies, the aliens are like primarily killing just for survival, or for self-defense, or because they need to eat or whatever. They're just killing to continue their species. But in this movie, in the movie itself, and in the novelization, and in like all the commentary or whatever, for some reason they do treat this one specific alien as like a malicious, evil killing machine who is taking joy out of the fear of all of the people on board. So like, where's the truth? I don't know. The truth is out there, but not here. So
okay, theory time is
Okay.
that it's just a little baby bean, and it only does killing for self-preservation, but just like the cast of this film, it feels very claustrophobic. And so it's just kind of wigging out, It's like, what the fuck? Something
people who are confused, people who are going through tricky developmental stages, sometimes lash out and have violent or upsetting behavior. You know what I mean? Like, they don't know how to cope. This is they're trying to cope by just they don't
Lashing
know that those
out.
people are threats or not. Maybe it is self-preservation.
He thought he was giving them a kiss. When he does that to the other xenomorphs, nothing happens. But when these little fleshy humans get in the way, they just rip apart and it kind of tastes good. And then he gets a taste for blood, and that's what the rest of it is. Oh.
How was I supposed to know that if I squeezed Parker to death, he would die? You know what I mean? I've never met a human before this trip.
It was just a hug.
I'm meeting them for the first time.
We've
been on an alien planet for so long.
They call the OG little mini baby a face hugger. It's just a little hug. It's a loving embrace with a tube down your throat into your belly where it impregnates you.
Okay, actually, I am going full shark movie, I guess, because Jaws in space, 47 meters down. You know how they say that sharks don't actually, they're never trying to eat people, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But they come across people so rarely because the ocean is so fucking big that sometimes when they do see a human, they take a bite just to be like, what is this? Because they don't have hands, you know what I mean? They only have a mouth. And so they bite and then they go, ew, gross. Like, we don't see the alien eating anybody. You know what I mean? Like, we don't necessarily see a lot of the people after they've come into contact with the aliens. There is a deleted scene with Dallas where he survived the initial attack and then is found later on in like a pod and he's like, please kill me, whatever. I don't fucking know. And then they like repurpose that with a different character in one of the sequels. So you can argue whether or not that is a thing. But possibly the alien is just using what it has available to it to explore the atmosphere around it and the other living creatures in that space in a sensory way with its squeezy hands and little scorpion tail and acid venom blood spit steam breath blah blah blah, you know, like it's just using the body parts at its disposal, much like a shark. And, you know, well, I was going to say, I did say it was like a dolphin, the way it might feel, but dolphins and sharks feel way different. So that would be wrong. But actually, dolphins are dicks and sharks are just trying to live their life.
Dolphins
so maybe the dolphin thing, if this animal is mean on purpose, you know what I mean?
It is a dolphin.
It is a dolphin.
It's certainly. Okay. All right. We could go either way with this. Another thing that I read in some of the articles that I was doing research with was that this is basically just like a haunted house movie, but the haunted house is a spaceship. And I fucking loved that. I thought that scanned even more because like throughout the entire movie, they sprayed a little mist throughout everything.
Yeah.
Not so you can really see it. So, I mean, sometimes you can see some mist, but it's like that's what gives it that like grainy, hissy quality the entire time. And I'm just like, it's just a freaking haunted mansion. And if it is haunted mansion and the xenomorph is the spooky ghost, whatever, then Ash is the creepy butler. Like 100%. He is so right the creepy butler.
Can we talk about Ash?
Please.
For a second.
Boo. But also I love this part of the movie. I love this aspect of it because it brings in like it like zooms out the entire film for just a second. But what were you gonna say, Sydney?
Ash has bad vibes this whole movie. You can like tell.
Yeah.
Like just, and then we learn that the normal space science guy, I don't know, the normal Bill Nye on the ship is who normally does all these runs with Dallas, was replaced 2 days before. 2 days before they
Boosh. Season finale. Boosh.
I have no spatial awareness. It's fine. But so Dallas, like Ripley again, picking up those bad vibes. She's like, I don't trust him. Dallas is like, I trust nobody. But guess what? Ripley was motherfucking right, because Ash is what is it?
An android?
He is
filled
a giant
with
cell
milk.
phone. Okay,
with
also,
milk.
Oh my god,
that shot literally is like a bukkake scene of my worst nightmare. Like,
And I did not understand why it looked like that or what I was even supposed to like. Was he sweating? Apparently he was bleeding because IMDb trivia says he has like milky white blood. They did not use milk itself because it would spoil under the studio lights. But he has like milky white blood. And the only time you see him eating or drinking anything, he's drinking what is possibly, or at least looks like, just milk. And you don't see him consuming anything else during the scenes where they're eating, which is actually super interesting. And then his insides are like balloons and marbles and noodles. I don't know why.
Android technology, it's the future, okay? Even though that shit is all like weird. But I like it because if it was like, you know, like C3PO or some shit like that with like all the wires exposed, it wouldn't be nearly as cool. He's like a humanoid android thing, like a synthetic life form. So he's like alive kind of, but like not also.
Like Data or however you say it, right?
Yeah,
from Star Trek.
Data. I love Data. Data's cute too, but Ash is not cute. He's creepy and he's mean. And that's why he didn't wear a fucking mask when he was doing surgery on the face hugger, because he doesn't have people lungs. He just got marbles and linguini.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You know that battery acid blood of the face hugger would melt. Oh, Monica, please don't. Okay, also, since Chelsea brought up the fact that like it wasn't milk that they used for the blood because it would smell under the studio lights.
Oh my God, this movie's disgusting.
Is it white out? What is it?
No idea what it is. But when they were operating on the face hugger, they used like oysters and like a couple like other things. And they were like, they had to film those scenes really fast so it wouldn't stink. Oh, like, and like a sheep's liver, or they used like animal parts. And
also,
I have these notes all together from IMDb trivia. The dead face hugger was fresh shellfish, 4 oysters, and a sheep kidney.
Yum.
The inside of the alien eggs was also composed of real organic materials, including fresh cattle hearts and stomachs. And then the chest burster sequence, they used real like animal intestines and blood and guts to splatter all over their actors without warning them exactly what was happening, so that they could be as scared as possible on camera.
And which actor was it that was just like, fuck this shit, and like locked themselves in their room after that because they're so fucking horrified?
It was Parker. His name, I don't know if I'm gonna pronounce this right, but just phonetically guessing here, Yaphet Kotto.
Yeah. It's just like, absolutely fuck you.
Yes. He went home in complete shock afterwards, locking himself in a room and refusing to talk to his wife for several hours.
Don't blame him.
So, yeah.
I'm not a big fan of viscera on my face without anyone, you know, having me sign a release for that.
Fully sue, you know what I mean? That feels, it was the 70s.
It was
so
79.
You know, who knows? But
I would be
that would not fly with me.
I would be like the character bitching about money, being like, I'm not paid enough to do this shit. Like, pay me more money. Where's my bonus?
Yeah, I would be like, where is my Tony Todd? I get paid another $1,000 for every bee that's on my face, or something like that.
Yes.
Like, where is that? That's what I'm looking for.
Where's my $13,000 bonus for getting splattered with blood and guts? That's real blood and guts.
No, thank you.
That's also why Lambert screamed so loud, because she did not know it was happening, and she truly also got splattered.
We love that live react, you know? It's just beautiful.
We should get to the end of the movie and our segment soon, but just before we do, I do want to talk about Brett's death, because he was the other mechanic with Parker, and this is one of the parts of the movie where I do think like more information could have been helpful. In the beginning, like I said, I was really struggling to follow, and I was like, why won't this movie spoon feed me information? And then at one point it did start to be like, oh, this put oxygen in his lungs, and here's how everything works. And I was like, okay, thank you, finally. But one thing that I did not understand was Brett's death, and I thought there was like something wrong with the movie that I watched almost, because it was like Brett dies, and then I had to watch a stupid commercial break, and then it was our girl Ripley and Parker being like, we saw him get dragged into the ceiling, but like we didn't see him get dragged into the ceiling. Apparently there was a deleted scene where they did film that, and they did see that, and you saw like more of that, but it was so gory that they had to cut it, I guess. But there's so much
already
going on,
rated
and, like,
R.
I don't know.
It would have been NC-17.
No, truly is the thing. They did have so much like gore and stuff in this movie that they ended up needing to cut down.
Yeah, because
they
it
really
was going to
were
be an
going
X
for-
rating.
Ooh.
Yeah, they really were going for that Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe for a moment there.
Mhm.
But the deleted scenes, I think sometimes make things make so much more sense. Some of them I'm glad are not here. And then some of them, like the Brett connection, I wish had been there, because I felt like I had missed part of the movie. You know what I mean? When they were like, we saw this, but they were not in the room and we didn't see them see anything. And then there was another scene. Okay, there's like this whole sex plot line apparently that was supposed to exist in this movie, not Alien aside. But like Dallas and Ripley were maybe going to be fucking at one point, and like Lambert was maybe going to be fucking somebody at another point. And then there was a scene where Lambert and Ripley were talking about sex, because the premise was like, oh, they sometimes just bang each other because
20
horny,
months.
you know what I
baby.
mean?
That's
Yeah.
a long time.
It's a long journey. You get bored, you need stimulation, you need release, whatever. Sometimes they just bang. It's no big deal. Where they were talking about, like, does Ash fuck? Has Ash ever fucked? And they were like, no, I don't think he's interested in fucking, which is like good scene setting for the robot reveal later on. Although I think what we did and didn't see worked out well, you know what I mean? Because once he started giggling and malfunctioning or whatever, I was like, what the fuck is happening? And then they let it go on for long enough and then revealed it also soon enough that it worked for me. But there's so much in the deleted scenes that I think could have benefited from being in this movie, so much that there's like a director's cut. Okay, Ridley Scott said this is like his perfect version of the film as it exists, but also he has a director's cut where he put in a bunch of the deleted scenes and then cut a bunch of other scenes so that it would still have like the same pacing and stuff that he wanted to. IMDb says it's like actually 1 minute shorter of runtime, which is super interesting. But it is strange to see like what is kind of happening here that's alluded to, what was happening slightly off camera, but like the film footage exists, like what was planned but not filmed and then just ended up being implied. But that was one moment where I was like, I could have benefited from seeing that information, because I truly was like, has this been edited for TV? Like, has this been cut down? It didn't make sense to me.
I totally feel you. And I can see that. I liked the way they did Brett's, because there's so much lead up. And then it's kind of like they just like, to use a terrible term, blue balled you, where you're just like, oh, we're going to see a crazy death. And then they don't show you that. And it keeps the mystery alive of like how this beast kills its prey, you know, how this alien kills.
It just felt a little clumsy to me, I guess, that they didn't cut that line in the dialogue then. You know what I mean? Like, I wish they had like an alternate take.
I was fine with
where they could be like, oh, he's dead. We didn't see it, but
yeah,
we saw just his feet disappearing into the air duct, whatever.
Yeah, I'm fine with the idea of the character seeing things that I can't see. So I was like, oh, well, we didn't see it because the mystery lives until the next kill, or not even. I don't even think we see the real gore of it all until Lambert and Parker, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because Kane, he's already gone. And Dallas dies in the dark. You don't see what happens to him. And yeah,
you see the like guy jump up with like spooky hands, and that was like the one moment in the movie where I went like, ah, That
was so
and
scary.
so I'm glad you brought it up because that was the big spooky for me.
Oh, that scene is so terrifying. Also, the fact that it's lit up by a flamethrower, epic. Very dope.
Mhm.
Very dope. Love a flamethrower. There should be more flamethrowers in films, if you can slip it in a tasteful way.
There should be more flamethrowers in life. Like I would
Oh,
like
God.
my own
You should
flamethrower.
not have a flamethrower. I have a heat gun and I don't even feel safe having that. I use it for creme brulee.
Can we talk about the one true hero star iconic performance in this movie? And that is Jones.
Yes.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
Jones, because just like in the autopsy of Jane Doe, that bitch knew what was going on. Like Jones was like hissing. It was like, y'all done fucked up. Like, what are you bringing into my house? Like,
this
I
is
did
where
not
I
allow
sleep.
this.
How dare you?
And
those are my vents, you guys.
Right. And also, number one main evidence that Ripley is a queer lady is she loves that cat and cares about that cat more than any other person on that ship.
Absolutely. She's like Jones above everyone else. She was trying to save everyone at the beginning, but then she was like, y'all are idiots, or it's too late.
My cat?
Where's my cat? Yeah. Oh man, I feel like we haven't talked about Ripley enough, but I mean, we have to talk about the ending, so it's a good opportunity. The ending of this movie is so fucking stressful. There's nothing like the false flag, where you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
everything is a-okay. No, it's actually the worst case scenario. Remember before when you were on a big ship with a big alien? Now you're on a tiny ship with a big alien. Psych.
And I'm no film historian, so I don't know if this is 100% true. But IMDb trivia leads me to believe that if this was not the first film, this was one of the first films to really do like the fourth act of it all, where you think the movie is over and you think they're safe, and then something pops up again. You know how in the end of Scream, they're like, this is the part of the movie where you think the killer's dead, and then they pop back up for one last scare, and then she shoots Billy in the head.
Yeah.
That is like so directly referencing this. Like this started, I mean, other things as well, because there's a lot of that in horror cinema. But this was one of the first times where they really started to do that. And apparently Ridley Scott had to like really fight for this scene, because I think they had run out of money, and he had to go back and be like, hey, no, like I swear this is gonna be worth it, like give me a few more days to film, give me some more money so that I can keep going. And it is legendary, you know what I mean, the way that they pulled it off. Because the setup with the self-destruct and then being like, it will self-destruct in 10 minutes and you have 5 minutes to undo it. And I was like, okay, how is this going to be relevant, the 5 minutes to undo it? You know what I mean? Like, is she going to end up trapping the alien in the shuttle and then have to shut off the self-destruct on the ship, and she stays on the ship, and then the coolant is also not an issue at that point since it was down with Lambert and Parker? But no, she'll have to figure out the coolant issues herself later on, whatever. I feel she's capable. But I thought it was a really well done way that they like really ramped up the anxiety in getting to the shuttle, and then even on the shuttle being like, and it's not over. And what resources do you have at your disposal now? Truly not a lot.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's also like, and people have a lot to say about this, but it's a total like caught with your pants down literally moment. Because there's a lot to talk about with like whether they're trying to sexualize Ripley in that moment when she takes off all of her clothes in the pod. But also as someone who doesn't like to wear a lot of clothes when they go to sleep, I was like, yes, girl, get into your PJs. You're going to be sleeping in that little pod for a long time. You want to be comfortable. And
yes, James Cameron directed the second one, and he specifically said, like, I hated that scene. When I saw it, I vowed to become a director. I would never make women shoot scenes like that again. But exactly what you're saying. When I get home after a long day of work, sometimes all I do is immediately get out of my work clothes. That's what she was doing. She thought she was ready to relax, get out of her work clothes. And also, like you said, she has like a 20-month journey back to Earth in front of her. How do we know she was not just going to have a little snack and then pop right into her sleep pod, where apparently they sleep butt ass naked in a diaper with white tape over their nipples? You know what I mean? Like, she's just getting ready for bed.
Yeah, and she was getting into the tube when she realized, oh no.
And in the beginning of the movie, like, we do see them all like in the pods, and assuming
Naked.
but like
Mostly.
assuming she's basically maybe wearing the exact same thing, you know, like that isn't sexualized either. Like, that feels very medical and just like a routine, like, oh, I'm coming
Yeah.
out of stasis, and this is her like going into stasis. I just think the plumber butt crack was
Yes,
a little bit
thank you.
unnecessary.
Okay. I like
She
that
could've-
though.
it would be
because
uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Pull up your undies. I hate when my undies are sliding down.
was
As somebody
in
who
a
is a
hurry.
high waist Granny Penny fan, like, I need that high cut thing. Like, I don't want any.
That little
Way to
skinny
feel.
string biting into the side. No thanks.
I could not
No.
relate to her underwear situation as a thong wearing individual, but I did love the little bit of crack because Lizzo tried to make Ass Crack Summer happen this summer and it didn't really catch on. But I was like, Ripley was there in 79. Okay. Because the ass crack, like, it's still not sexy yet, but it's coming. That's the next resurgent, next hot girl summer. We'll get there. But yeah, I mean, I feel
No,
like the
I reject.
intention. I know. I feel like the intention of her, like, if as an actual woman, you know, getting into her comfy clothes, that felt real. But then all the shots of like her see-through shirt, you could see her nipples, her butt crack, all of that stuff. I was just like, okay, all right, there's a lot of that now.
Yes,
And it-
I related to it, but also these things don't exist in a vacuum, and
Yes.
it is explicitly for viewer consumption.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
not
think
just for us.
there's dialogue on
unfortunately.
either side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. But what an absolute bad bitch. I mean, we've known that the entire time, but she thinks so quickly in this moment. She's like,
Mhm.
my only option is big suit and eject button. And like that slow motion getting into the astronaut suit. Oh my God, it's just so well done. The anxiety you feel. Oh, I'm not over it. And I didn't even watch it. I haven't watched it. I didn't even watch it, is what I just said.
I've never watched this film.
I
I actually just read the Wikipedia plot summary. Can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
There are pods like that, I think.
I watch it every time, but I watched it a whole last week ago.
Sure.
But I still feel anxious even now. But yeah, it's an epic finale. And the thing that's so fucking stressful is that like the sequel literally picks up like she's still in those undies. Like literally that's where
Is she?
yeah, man. It literally wait, didn't Sydney read it to us? I think it picks up like when they finally find her pod, like a hella fucking long time later.
I know it's like 57 years in the future.
And they finally find
Yeah,
her
something like
escape
that.
pod. So she's been asleep the whole time. Otherwise she'd be
Oh.
like, well,
old.
old
Yeah.
and dead or something. Yeah. So she's still in her little undies. She wakes up and she's like, what the fuck? What? Oh my
But if
God,
she
is
was
the
in the
cat
sleep pod, she
still
would have been
alive?
in her undies no matter what.
No, yeah, I know.
Is the
I hope the cat's alive in Aliens. I don't remember.
Oh, the
yeah,
cat.
it is. think
I thought
it
you
is.
said the cast, and I was like, some of
They
them.
bring the
Yeah.
cast back for Aliens, right? No. It's not an anthology in that way. This is not American Horror Story.
How fun would that be, though?
It would
Maybe,
be something.
It sure would be something.
But yeah, that's Alien. What a movie. What a movie. I feel like our first segmento. Oh God, why have we adopted that? I'm so upset.
Because it's
She got in our heads.
snazzy.
It's snazzy. But okay, how could it be gayer? I agree with Sydney that it's already gay because
Yes,
Ripley's
how I feel. Yeah, there's not a single straight in this movie, if you ask me. But also, then per IMDb, there was a lot of really interesting stuff in the trivia. Apparently, there were a lot of conversations. Okay, before I go to that, I'm going to take you through my journey of reading IMDb trivia, which is first I saw the discussions about like casual sex and how the team members would just like boink or whatever for biology. And then I was like, that seems risky on a ship in space, you know what I mean, where like you could get pregnant if you're having heterosexual penetrative sex. So they should all be having gay sex instead. If you don't actually need to be like invested in the person, you're just having casual sex, they should just all have gay sex because then there's no risk of pregnancy. And then apparently there were actual conversations about including a lesbian relationship between Ripley and Lambert in this film. Like that almost was in this film. There's also one moment where Ripley is sitting in a chair, and I wrote in my notes, she's definitely a lesbian just based on the way that she's sitting.
Oh yeah, her whole vibe, the whole vibe, the chucks.
Yes. But the lesbian relationship aside, there are also arguably trans characters in this movie. Because IMDb trivia says, let me find it. Okay, hold on. Okay, in a preview of the bonus feature menus for the Alien Legacy box set posted to Usenet, the bio for Dallas had him as being born female and Lambert as being born male, suggesting gender reassignment before the events in the movie. There was negative fan reaction, so they like kind of took it back, but it says their gender is quote unquote natural with brackets behind it, implying that gender reassignment is a fairly common procedure in the future. So trans characters, arguably canonically.
Love that. That's awesome.
Love that.
Damn. Wow, that's
Would I like them to be actually trans and have them say they're trans in the movie? Preferably, yes.
Of course.
You know what I mean? But
for 79,
they
though?
arguably, but for 1979, that they arguably are trans characters confirmed by like extra details outside of the movie itself, that is still pretty freaking good. You know what I mean?
It's certainly better than what we get 4 years later for Sleepaway Camp. So, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, the Sleepaway Camp director should have read the box set insert before putting the Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah, they should have read the IMDb trivia of Alien and figure out how to get it done.
Idiots.
Well, that was Alien Legacy, which who knows when that came out, probably later. So that's something that could have been added. Let me Google actually. Alien Legacy came out in 1994. So
okay.
You know, it is like 15 years after the fact. But I'm taking it still, and I don't care, and it's mine, and you can't take it from me.
No, I'm with you. That's canon. But yeah, I mean, Ripley, I don't understand why. I mean, there's not time in the later films for her to have a full-blown lesbian relationship. I said lesbian, really weird. Because she's very busy, and that's all. I'll leave it as that. She's got a lot to do. She's got a lot to worry about, namely aliens. But
multiple aliens,
because it's called Aliens. The sequel's called Aliens.
Maybe sometimes Predators. I don't know where the who's in what
in those ones.
I don't think she is
for her. For Sigourney Weaver. But yeah, she's got a lot to worry about. She doesn't have time for romance, but that would be beautiful. I'd love to see Sigourney Weaver do anything. Honestly, she's beautiful.
But yeah, to me, Ripley is a lesbian. Dallas and Lambert are trans. Obviously, Ash is a robot, but so you know, robots don't have gender. So that is non-binary in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think there was something going on with Parker and Brett. You know what I mean? Like they were definitely besties, but also they had each other's back, and they were so taken with each other in a way that I choose to frame as gay.
I accept it. You're right.
I love that.
You're right. Okay, so the next question is, where could Matthew Lillard fit into this film? And was he alive? No, yes. How old?
Yeah.
Was he born in
He was,
60?
He
like,
was
9.
not super old. Yeah, but
What was
I
he
think
born?
actually
8
he
or
was
9.
exactly 9. Well, when the movie came out, at least.
He was born in 70.
Oh, do you know what? Okay, actually, I have a really funny piece of IMDb trivia that I'm gonna share with you because it cracked me up when I read it. Hold on. What is the word? Mhm. Okay, this is not part of the podcast. What's another word for fainting?
Passing out.
Something with an H. Oh, yeah. Actually, that was right. Thank you so much. Okay. There's a piece of trivia about the spacesuits that they wear at the part where they're like on the planet finding the eggs. And I'm gonna read it to you directly because the language is what's so funny to me. And then I'm also gonna share another really good piece of trivia, and then you're gonna see where I'm going with the Matthew Lillard thing.
Okay.
But the spacesuits worn by Tom Skerritt, don't know, Sir John Hurt and Veronica Cartwright were huge, bulky items lined with nylon and with no outlets for breath or condensation. As the actors and actress were working under hot studio lights and conditions in excess of 100 degrees Fahrenheit, they spent most of their time passing out. And which is why I was that they spent most of their time passing out. The phrasing of that truly slayed me. A nurse had to be on hand at them with all times to keep supplying them with oxygen. It was only after Sir Ridley Scott's and cinematographer Derek Van Lint's children were used in the suits for long shots because tiny. So that the world looked big. It was only when their children were used in the suits for long shots and they passed out too that some modifications were made to the costume. So like truly only once their own children were the working conditions of this movie
We're bad.
Yeah.
Awful.
You can't make your cast Sir John Hurt, his name is Sir, you know what I mean? Like he's been knighted presumably, and you're making him pass out on set. Alarming.
I don't know if he'd been knighted at this time, but still they should have felt that vibe
known.
from him.
Yes. But yeah, their castmates are passing out. Apparently that's how they're spending most of their time, is passing out. And then only once their children are also fainting from heat exhaustion or lack of oxygen or whatever in these suits, where they were like, is this maybe bad? But also, so they had children playing the cast members at some point, and another one of their ideas before they found I don't know how to say his name. I'm gonna give it my best shot, but does anybody know how to say the name of the actor who played Big Bongo?
No.
Let me see.
My best guess is
Badejo. I'm not sure.
Yes, that would be my best guess as well. So before they found him, and they just like found him in a bar, and then there's one piece of IMDb trivia. Sorry, this is such a tangent. There's one piece of IMDb trivia where he was like, I'm gonna go back to my normal life as a graphic designer or whatever, but if they do more movies, I'd love to be in the movies. And then there was another piece of IMDb trivia that was like, he disappeared back into anonymity after this film, which is like, yeah, he went back to his normal life. Anyway, but before they found him to play this role, Ridley Scott suggested for the alien, this is a quote from IMDb, that they could strap 2 kids to an adult and have them wrapped in rubber. So 9-year-old Matthew Lillard could have been one of these children.
Child labor laws?
Matthew Lillard could have been one of these children strapped to another child and an adult and wrapped in rubber. He could have been one of the children in the spacesuits. You know what I mean? It sounds like there were a lot of possible applications for a 9-year-old Matthew Lillard on this set. Not that I wish him to be passing out most of the time. You know what I mean? But
I personally, if we're doing the time travel thing, which I always am, I think that a young Matthew Lillard would make an incredible Ash. I feel like he'd do a great sinister android man.
I agree.
I think he could have been a good Brett too.
I also agree.
Ooh,
oh my
yeah.
God, those are my two.
Ooh.
Wow, you guys, I feel so connected
Same
to you right now.
brain. Amazing. It's the season
What?
finale energy channeling through us.
Wow.
Ah. Okay, so dumb bitch. Is it everyone except for Ripley and the alien and the xenomorph?
The alien and the
It's
xenomorph
not-
are the same person.
And it's
Monica.
not, huh? Sorry. Yeah. I was saying like alien / xenomorph. I know they're the same.
Okay. And Jones.
Yes,
And Jones.
it's not Jones.
It's not Jones.
I'd like to make a case for it not being Ash, but he is a robot, and so he's just following his programming. You know what I mean?
But he's
And so I don't
green.
think he has the agency to be a dumb bitch.
I would like to
Fine.
suggest Dallas is a bad leader and didn't like fully think about what the fuck they were doing.
He let
and the
fear lead
conse-
him.
And but like I think he
Or
just
empathy, but stupid empathy, because it is literally the trolley problem playing out in front of
Yeah.
us in Alien.
Seriously, it's like, do you let Kane die and everyone else then defo lives? Or do you sacrifice all of our lives just to be nice? I guess I'm gonna choose. Wow, I just answered the trolley problem for myself. I don't think that if I was in this situation, it would be that easy of a decision. But while I was watching it, I was like, "You fucking idiots! Quarantine him!"
But I also think Kane is such a good contender because he's the one who stuck his face in an alien egg in the first place.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
No, yeah. When he saw the
so for
alien pussy
me-
quiver, he put his face in it.
Don't say
I
that.
said it like 40 times on the
Um,
episode already.
You didn't
She
say
did.
I did.
it in
Yes,
quite that combination, maybe.
I
Yes,
did
she
exactly
did.
like that. I literally exactly
When
like
you
that.
said pussy lips earlier, I did also go. But I don't know. Maybe I
think
rejected
you
it
were trying not to
previously.
hear me and you were charging forward on an IMDb trivia point and I kept saying alien pussy and Sydney kept laughing. That's what was happening.
It's the pussy and the quiver together that
Alien pussy lips quiver.
Okay.
Anyway,
I
it's
choose
Kane.
to move on.
It's Kane.
Yeah. For me, it's
Okay.
got to be him. You know what I mean? He's not a scientist, but I'm also not a scientist, and I know better than to stick my face in an alien egg.
But he's also like him and Dallas are 1 and 2 in command. So they should have known better than their actions.
Yep. I agree. Can't throw caution to the winds when you're on a fucking alien planet. You just can't.
Oh.
There's no wind there. Oh, maybe there is. I don't know about the atmosphere. There's no way to know. Okay. All right. I thought it would be the whole cast, but you're right. Parker's fine. He does his best. Okay, that brings us to our knives out of fives. Who wants to go first?
I'll set the scene before we do that. This film literally won an Oscar.
Yeah.
It was an Oscar for best visual effects, but it also got nominated for best art direction / best set direction. So
Agreed.
that is an Oscar and a potential Oscar. And if you go on Rotten Tomatoes, the reviews are glowing. It is 98% fresh from critics, and it is 94% fresh from audiences. So those are both extremely high. It's slightly lower on IMDb. It's an 8.4 out of 10 on IMDb, which is
Still a B.
probably it looked right to me until I saw Rotten Tomatoes, and then I was like, oh, that's low. But still pretty high considering how many people on IMDb are haters. So that is where we're at, in the sense that like this film was incredibly well received. Oh, this film was so well received that people were terrified after seeing the movie. Somebody on the crew or production team or whatever, their wife saw the movie and then like locked herself in her home for days at a time because she was afraid to leave it. There was some movie theater in like Texas that cut out the chest bursting scene to stop audience members from puking in their bathrooms. They were like, we're just getting rid of it and they'll just see the funeral and have to put the pieces together, and that's not my problem. The puking is my problem and I will not have it. So
Sometimes I wish that I was alive when all of these movies were coming out so I could
Hey.
experience like the fear and the general like visceral reaction of like this and The Exorcist and like all the like
Yes.
hysteria around like all of these movies.
Oh, what was that one movie? It was like maybe one of the first movies ever, and there's like a train in it, and it comes towards the audience, and people had never seen a movie before, and they were like, "Holy shit!" And they dove out of their seats because they thought they were gonna get hit by a train. Like, I want to experience that.
I want to experience that. Like, what is our in 2021? Like, what is that experience for us?
We're so fucking jaded. I don't even get scared at Halloween Horror Nights anymore when someone's literally coming at me in real life at my face with it's a fake knife. It's because I know that it's fake. That's it. That's it.
I'm gonna be cutting this out of the pod, but it's like we live through like school shootings and like movie theater shootings. Like, bring it on. Like, what movie is gonna be scarier than just going to a movie?
Seriously, and being alive. Jesus Christ.
Right?
Fuck.
Okay, continue, Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, I think unfortunately that is part of it for me, is that I think if I had been able to watch this movie in a movie theater on a big screen, I would have a completely different experience than like watching it on my computer at home, where the free streaming app I'm using to watch it is making me watch commercial breaks in the middle. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that I was necessarily set up for the most successful, enjoyable viewing experience. So it's hard for me to give it what might be its most fair rating, or what might be the best circumstances rating that I could have given it some other time. That said, I did think it was pretty great. I thought that what we ended up getting, as opposed to all of the terrible things that I'm so glad did not make it into the film, that makes me appreciate it more. I will say that. Knowing what could have been and what I reject makes me appreciate it more. The fact that they were willing to be like, and didn't at the time maybe be like, these characters are gay and trans, whatever, I'm still taking it. For me, that's part of the film. And I did have that one spooky moment, you know what I mean? And like you said, the experience of watching a movie in the 70s is simply different than it is now. And I struggle with watching sci-fi movies that are old and not just thinking the whole time like, that's made of cardboard. But I didn't think that the whole time with this movie. You know what I mean? Like, I was immersed for some points. I think some parts of it, like the Ash reveal, was so incredible to me because I did not know that. And it felt like the way they handled it, the timing of it, the pacing of it, I thought was really great. I liked her at the end. I didn't mind that she was in her undies. That wasn't like that disruptive to me in any way other than the butt crack. A little bit, I didn't like that Lambert was so hysterical and only hysterical for the most part. But also it, you know, they're being chased by aliens. Like, sometimes you're going to be a little hysterical, and I'm willing to, the Ripley representation is so good that I think that if you're going to go like full strong woman, you can also go full crying woman. You know what I mean? It balances out for me, at least. That I did like this movie. Again, I think I could have watched it under much better conditions, but I would still give it like a solid 4 knives out of 5s.
Nice. Sydney, you want to go next?
I can fuck with the 4 out of 5 knives. I didn't find it scary, although I will say though, the scariest part for me was when the face sucker is like, they realize it's not on Kane's face anymore, and so they're like looking for it, and then it falls from the sky. That made me jump.
Good.
I forgot that happened. But like the chest bursting scene like didn't get the shock from me that I think it, you know, was going for. But again, like, we're so jaded in horror movies. It's very funny to find what makes you jump in a movie like isn't what maybe they intended to make you jump.
And also, I don't know if this is your experience, but I had known about that scene and seen that scene a billion times before I ever watched the movie as a whole. And so, like, it can't be scary if you know exactly when it's coming and what it is already. You know what I mean?
And also, like, I love the set of this movie. Like
Oh,
it is,
so
it gets,
good.
it's so the detail, the like all the thought that they put in it. Like I get why this movie birthed 800 million sequels.
Mm-hmm.
Now I do want to watch Alien versus Predator. I have never seen a Predator movie.
Oh, you've never
So-
seen Predator?
Mm-mm.
You have to watch straight up Predator first. It's Arnold. Come on. You gotta watch it. Oh, it's really great. It's not a scary
Maybe we'll-
movie, it's an action movie. So it's interesting that very different vibe. Entirely different vibe. But like a natural, one big alien movie, another big alien movie. They gotta collab. They gotta go head to head. A
They're
la Freddy
besties.
versus Jason. Come on. There's just no other way. So you give it a 4 out of 5?
4 out of 5.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna give this one a 4.55555 out of 5 because of what like it did for the genre. You know what I mean? I think that has obviously created so many sequels, as we've said. I liked the Prometheus movies. They have a lot of varying opinions on those, but I liked them a lot. And it set a precedent for alien horror that, everybody was trying to measure up to this mark afterwards. And not very many people did a good job, but at least they had something to strive for. It's always great to have goals.
Sure.
Yeah. And yeah, I just think that the design of the creature is fucking brilliant. I love the slow burn, like I said earlier. So the world building, how it creeps up on you literally and physically, even though I do think that maybe this isn't the most effective alien ever, where it has to like go in an egg, go on your face, go from the egg to your face, then go in your belly, and then turn into a giant 7-foot tall beast. Doesn't seem super easy to do, but they make it work. They take over whole civilizations. Xenomorphs, they know what's up. But yeah, I fucking love this movie. I wish I'd seen it on a big screen as well, and I will be seeking out like the cool old theaters in LA that show old films. Like we should definitely go see this one there. Like that would be fucking amazing. So yeah, 4.55555 repeating. I love this one. So glad we finally have aliens on the pod. More aliens on the pod immediately. Maybe that will happen in season 2 because, as we mentioned,
Season 2.
this is our season finale.
This is the final episode ever. Goodbye.
Goodbye. You just leave it at that. No, but this was our season finale, and I know that you're like, what am I gonna do? An undisclosed amount of time without Spooky Tuesday. What will I do on my Tuesdays? Oh, don't worry. We're only taking 1 week off. And during that week, you will still be receiving an episode. We're doing a little getting to know you episode for our interim week, just to give you a little taste. And then during that episode, we will reveal what the first episode for season 2 will be. So sorry, you don't get to know now.
No spoilers.
Mystery. Yeah, no spoilers. Okay. You have to listen to us talking about ourselves in order to get to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But yeah.
Important.
So I hope you enjoyed season 1. And if you really did, why don't you rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts? We'd really appreciate that. We're also on Podchaser if you have an Android and you still want to show us some love. Also follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at spooky_Tuesday, and on Facebook and Tumblr at Spooky Tuesday Pod. And we have 3 Letterboxd followers now. Do you want to be the 4th?
Wow.
At Spooky Tuesday on Letterboxd. Okay, it's gonna be great.
It's not just us because I'm not following us.
Yeah, I'm not following it. I don't have a letterbox.
Somebody followed our Letterboxd yesterday. It's pretty exciting.
Wow.
All right, that's it.
Organic growth.
And cut for season 1.
Bye, spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Haidt, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamra Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamra. And our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at the_moon_OMG.
This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo. Signing off.